There's a place in Russia where the sun rises over frozen ground. A place where men enter but never leave. The locals call it by a strange name, Black Dolphin. But there's nothing playful about this prison. Nothing friendly. This is where Russia sends its worst nightmares. Imagine walking down a street and seeing a building. From the outside, it looks old, ordinary. But behind those walls, something dark is happening. Something most people will never see. If you want to discover the secrets hidden inside the world's most terrifying prison, hit that subscribe button right now. Because what you're about to hear will change how you think about punishment forever. Let me tell you a story. In the year 2000, the Russian government had a problem. They had criminals so dangerous, so evil, that regular prisons couldn't hold them. Murderers who killed dozens of people, cannibals who ate their victims, terrorists who bombed innocent families. What do you do with monsters like these? The answer was simple. You send them to a place they can never escape from. A place where hope goes to die. Black Dolphin Prison sits near the border of Kazakhstan, in a small town called Soledetsk. It's been standing since 1745. That's almost 300 years ago. But it wasn't always a supermax prison. In 2000, everything changed. The Russian government decided to turn this old building into something new, something worse. Today, about 700 men live inside those walls. But live isn't the right word. They exist, they breathe, they survive, but they don't really live. Every single prisoner in Black Dolphin has been given a life sentence. That means they will never walk free again. They will never feel grass under their feet. They will never see their families except through thick glass. They will die inside those walls. And the prison makes sure they know it. But here's what makes Black Dolphin different from every other prison on Earth. It's not just about keeping these men locked up. It's about breaking them down, day by day, hour by hour, until there's nothing left. Let me paint you a picture of what happens when someone arrives at Black Dolphin. The prisoner steps out of the transport van. Immediately, guards put a blindfold over his eyes. Why? Because the prison doesn't want him to see anything. Not the layout, not the walls, not the paths, nothing. He must learn that from this moment forward, he is blind to the world outside his cell. But that's not all. The guards force him to bend forward at the waist, 90 degrees, like he's bowing. Then they grab his hands behind his back, and they walk him, slowly, through hallways, around corners, downstairs. The whole time, he's blind and bent over like a broken man. This isn't just for security. This is a message. You are nothing here. You are less than human. You will obey. Now, let me tell you about the cells. Each cell is tiny. We're talking about 50 square feet. That's smaller than most bathrooms. Inside this tiny space, 2 men live together. 2 men who have committed terrible crimes. 2 men who will spend every hour of every day together for the rest of their lives. The cell has 2 metal beds bolted to the wall, a small table, a toilet in the corner with no privacy, and that's it. No TV, no radio, no books unless the prison approves them, no personal items, nothing to remind them they're human beings. The walls are thick concrete. The door is solid steel with 3 locks. Not 1, not 2, 3 separate locks. Because Black Dolphin takes no chances. But here's the thing that makes your skin crawl. There's a small window in each cell. But this window doesn't look outside. It faces another wall just a few feet away. So even if you look through the bars, all you see is gray concrete. No sky, no clouds, no birds, just a wall. A constant reminder that the world has forgotten you. Are you still watching? Good. Because it gets worse. Drop a comment below and tell me, could you survive one day in Black Dolphin? Now, let's talk about what daily life looks like inside this prison. The lights in the cells never turn off. Never. Imagine trying to sleep with bright fluorescent lights burning into your eyelids 24 hours a day. Your body never knows if it's morning or night. Time becomes meaningless. Days blend into weeks. Weeks into years. Every 15 minutes, a guard walks past each cell. You hear boots on concrete. Keys jangling. A face appears at the small window in your door. Eyes checking, making sure you're still there, still alive. Then the boots walk away. 15 minutes later, they come back. over and over and over, every single day, for the rest of your life. The prisoners must follow strict rules about how they spend their time. For 16 hours every day, they must stand or sit. They cannot lie down, even if they're exhausted, even if they're sick. The prison wants to make sure they never get comfortable, never feel at peace. Food arrives 4 times a day, but calling it food is generous. It's soup, always soup, watery, tasteless, just enough calories to keep a man alive. Nothing more. The prison doesn't care if the food tastes good. They don't care if the prisoners enjoy their meals. Food is fuel, that's all. But here's something interesting. Despite all this suffering, the prisoners can do small tasks to earn tiny privileges. They might fold envelopes or make simple products. The prison pays them almost nothing, but that tiny bit of money can buy basic items from the prison shop. A bar of soap, a notebook. Small comforts that mean everything when you have nothing. Once a day, the prisoners get 90 minutes of exercise time. I'm using quotation marks because you need to understand what this really means. They don't go to a yard. They don't play sports. They don't lift weights. Instead, guards blindfold them again, bend them over again, and walk them to a small cage. These cages are maybe 10 feet long and 10 feet wide. They have concrete floors, concrete walls on 3 sides, and thick metal bars on top. It's like a box, an outdoor box where you can see a tiny piece of sky. The prisoner walks in circles inside this cage, around and around, alone, for 90 minutes. That's his exercise. That's his fresh air. That's his only break from the cell. Then it's back to the cell, back to the lights that never turn off, back to the guards who check every 15 minutes, back to the same tiny space with the same person for another 22.5 hours. But who are these prisoners? What did they do to deserve this? There's Mikhail Popkov, a police officer people trusted. He murdered at least 78 women, offering them rides in his police car before killing them. One of Russia's most prolific serial killers now sits in a cell, knowing he'll never see freedom. Vladimir Nikolaev's crimes are so disturbing even other killers won't talk about them. He didn't just murder, he ate his victims. A cannibal locked in a tiny cell. Oleg Rilkov killed children, at least 20 young people. These are the monsters living in Black Dolphin. But here's what's strange about this prison. Despite housing some of the most dangerous criminals in the world, Black Dolphin has almost no violence, no riots, no fights, no gangs. Why? Because the security is so intense, so overwhelming, that violence becomes impossible. Remember those guards who check every 15 minutes? They're watching, always watching. The prisoners know that any wrong move, any hint of aggression, will be dealt with immediately and harshly. Plus, the prisoners are too broken down to fight. When you're exhausted from standing for 16 hours, when you're dizzy from lights that never turn off, when you're hungry and isolated and hopeless, you don't have the energy to fight. You barely have the energy to survive. In 2011, a documentary crew from National Geographic got rare permission to film inside Black Dolphin. They were the first outsiders to see what happens behind those walls. The footage they captured shocked the world. They showed prisoners being marched through hallways, bent over, blindfolded, hands behind their backs. They showed the tiny cells with walls so close the prisoners could touch both sides at once. They showed the exercise cages that looked more like animal pens than recreation areas. One of the guards told the camera, "These men are here to suffer, not to be rehabilitated. They can never be fixed. They can never rejoin society. Our job is to make sure they suffer for what they did." The world watched that documentary and couldn't look away. Some people said Black Dolphin was necessary, that monsters deserve to be treated like monsters. Others said it was too cruel, that even the worst criminals have human rights, that this kind of treatment is torture. But here's the truth that nobody talks about. Black Dolphin works. At least, it works for what it's designed to do. There has only been one successful escape in modern history. In 2016, Alexander Alexandrov got out, but he didn't escape from maximum security. He escaped from a minimum security work settlement. The maximum security section? Nobody has ever escaped. Nobody. Think about that. Over 20 years of operation, 700 of the most desperate, most violent criminals in Russia. Men who have nothing to lose. Men who will die in their cells. And not one of them has escaped. Why? Because Black Dolphin was designed to be escape-proof. The prison has triple steel doors on every entrance. Security cameras cover every inch of the facility. Motion sensors detect any movement. And the guards? They're everywhere, watching, waiting. But there's another reason nobody escapes. The prisoners don't know the layout of the prison. Remember those blindfolds? Every time a prisoner leaves his cell, he's blindfolded. Every time. So even after years in Black Dolphin, a prisoner has no idea what the building looks like. He doesn't know which hallways connect where. He doesn't know where the exits are. He's blind. How can you escape from a place you've never seen? And even if somehow, impossibly, a prisoner got past the doors and the guards and the cameras, where would he go? Black Dolphin sits in the middle of nowhere, miles from the nearest city, surrounded by frozen wasteland. Guards patrol the perimeter 24 hours a day. Attack dogs wait in kennels, ready to chase any runner. The message is clear. You came here to die. Accept it. Now, you might be asking yourself a question, a dark question that sits in the back of your mind. Is this justice? Or is this revenge? When a man murders children, when he eats his victims, when he destroys innocent lives, does he deserve this? Does he deserve to spend decades in a tiny cell with lights that never turn off? Does he deserve to be bent over and blindfolded like an animal? Does he deserve to lose his humanity? The Russian government says yes. Absolutely yes. These men showed no mercy to their victims. Why should society show mercy to them? But human rights groups disagree. Organizations from around the world have criticized Black Dolphin. They say the conditions are too harsh, that forcing men to stand for 16 hours is torture, that denying them privacy is degrading, that keeping lights on 24/7 is psychological abuse. Russia doesn't care. Russia says, this is what justice looks like. The prisoners? Most say nothing. They've learned complaining doesn't help. But some have spoken. In rare interviews, they described going mad from routine, forgetting what their voices sound like, dreams of freedom that feel more real than concrete walls. One prisoner said, every day is the same. Wake up, stand, eat soup, walk in the cage, more soup, stand, try to sleep with the lights burning, then do it again, forever. Another, I used to count the days, then months, then years. Now, I don't count. What's the point? There's no end. Just this? Men who once believed they were powerful, who took what they wanted, hurt who they chose. Now, they have nothing. They are nothing. But the story doesn't end here. That silence tells you something important. Something the guards figured out a long time ago. Isolation is more powerful than any weapon. You can beat a man and he might fight back. You can starve him and he'll find ways to survive. But take away his ability to connect with another human being, take away conversation, friendship, even the simple acknowledgement that someone else exists in the world with him, that breaks people faster than anything else. And Black Dolphin has perfected this art. Every single aspect of the prison is designed to keep you alone. The cells are soundproofed. The walls are thick. When you shuffle through hallways bent over, you don't see other prisoners. You see the floor, guard boots, nothing else. You eat alone. You sleep alone. You stand in your cell for 16 hours alone. You exercise in your concrete cage alone. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, months into years, and you never have a real conversation with another human being. Not one. Some prisoners try to break this rule. They whisper through ventilation shafts. They tap codes on pipes. They scratch messages into walls hoping someone in the next cell might see them someday. But the guards always find out, and when they do, there's punishment. More isolation, darker cells, less food, less everything. The message is clear. You are alone now. You will always be alone. Get used to it. But here's where it gets even darker, even stranger. And this is something most people don't know about Black Dolphin, because it's not the kind of thing that makes headlines. The guards rotate. They change shifts. They go home to families, to normal lives, to the outside world. They eat dinner, they watch television, they laugh with friends, and then they come back to this place where time has stopped and nothing ever changes. How does that affect a person? Working in a building where 700 men are slowly dying? Where your job is to watch them suffer for 8 hours and then go home and pretend everything is normal. Some guards last for years, others quit after months. The ones who stay develop a certain look in their eyes, a hardness. They stop seeing prisoners as people. They see them as objects, dangerous objects that need to be stored safely. That's the only way to survive this job psychologically. One guard told the National Geographic filmers something chilling. He said, "After a while, you forget they're human. You have to forget. Otherwise, you can't do this work." Think about that. He's admitting that to stay sane, he has to convince himself the prisoners aren't really people anymore. That's not cruelty. That's survival. His survival. Because if he saw them as human, if he felt their suffering, he'd break too. It's a place that destroys everyone who enters. Prisoners and guards alike, just in different ways. Now, let's talk about the criminals themselves. Because you need to understand who these men are to understand why Black Dolphin exists. Remember Mikhail Popkov, the police officer who murdered at least 78 women? He didn't kill strangers in dark alleys. He killed women who trusted him because of his uniform. He'd offer them rides, help them with groceries, act like a friend, and then he'd take them somewhere quiet and end their lives. For years, he did this. 78 confirmed victims. But investigators think the real number might be higher, much higher. They're still digging up bodies in forests around his old patrol routes. He's in Black Dolphin now, shuffling bent over through hallways, standing in his cell for 16 hours, eating soup 4 times a day, and he'll stay there until he dies. Vladimir Nikolaev, the cannibal, killed and ate parts of his victims. Not because he was starving, because he wanted to, because something in his brain told him this was normal, this was acceptable. The details of his crimes are so disturbing that Russian courts sealed parts of his case file. Even judges didn't want the full truth to be public. He's in Black Dolphin too. Same hallways, same concrete cage for exercise, same endless standing. Then there's Oleg Rilkov. 27 confirmed murders. He'd lure victims with promises of work, of help, of friendship. Then he'd torture them for days before killing them. He kept detailed notes about what he did, drew pictures, created a journal of horror that investigators said gave them nightmares. He's there too. The prison houses terrorists who planned attacks that killed dozens. Criminals who ran organizations that destroyed entire communities. Men whose names can't even be spoken publicly because their crimes involve state secrets. All of them in the same building. All of them following the same routine. All of them dying slowly. And here's what makes your skin crawl. These men don't deny what they did. They can't. The evidence is overwhelming. But some of them don't feel sorry either. They're not in Black Dolphin wishing they could take it back. They're in Black Dolphin angry that they got caught. Guards report that some prisoners talk about their crimes with pride, with nostalgia, like they're remembering the good old days. One prisoner, whose name we won't mention, keeps a photograph of one of his victims in his cell. The guards let him keep it because technically it's not against the rules, and he looks at it every day. What do you do with a person like that? Someone who not only killed, but enjoyed it, and would do it again if given the chance. Someone who shows no remorse, no humanity, no hope of ever changing? Black Dolphin is Russia's answer to that question. If you're still watching, if the story has gripped you the way it gripped me when I first learned about it, do me a favor, leave a comment below telling me what you think about places like this. Should they exist? Is there a better way? I read every single comment and I genuinely want to know your perspective on this. But it raises other questions. Difficult questions. Questions that keep philosophers and human rights activists awake at night. Because yes, these men did terrible things. Yes, they destroyed lives and families. Yes, society needs protection from them. But does that mean we should destroy them in return? Does that make us better than them? Or does it make us something else? Human rights organizations have been fighting about Black Dolphin for years. Amnesty International calls the conditions torture. The European Court of Human Rights has raised concerns. Medical doctors have said the sleep deprivation, the constant standing, the isolation, all of it causes permanent psychological damage. But Russia's response is simple. These aren't humans anymore. These are monsters. And monsters don't get human rights. It's a philosophy that makes a certain brutal sense. If you murder 78 women, if you eat human flesh, if you torture children, you've removed yourself from the category of human being. You've become something else. Something that needs to be locked away forever. And that's exactly what Black Dolphin does. It locks them away, not just behind bars, but in conditions so harsh that escape becomes impossible. Not just physical escape, but mental escape. There's nowhere to run, not even in your own mind. The prison operates on a simple principle. You took freedom from others. Now, yours is taken completely. You caused suffering. Now you suffer. You showed no mercy. Now you receive none. Eye for an eye taken to its logical extreme. But here's the thing nobody wants to admit. The thing that makes this whole situation so complicated and uncomfortable. It works. Black Dolphin has been operating since 2000. In over 2 decades, there have been no successful escapes from the maximum security section. No major riots. No guard murders. No hostage situations. No prison breaks that make international news. The system, brutal as it is, functions perfectly. It does exactly what it was designed to do. Remove the most dangerous criminals from society forever and ensure they never harm anyone again. You might hate it. You might think it's inhumane. You might believe there's a better way. But you can't argue with the results. 700 of the worst criminals in Russia are contained. Permanently. Completely. Absolutely. And the people of Russia? Most of them support it. When they hear about Black Dolphin, when they learn about the conditions, their reaction isn't horror. It's satisfaction. Good, they think. Those monsters deserve it. After what they did, they deserve worse. There's a reason the prison is so close to Kazakhstan. It's in the middle of nowhere, far from big cities, far from cameras and reporters, far from people who might ask uncomfortable questions. The government likes it that way, out of sight, out of mind. But occasionally, stories leak out. Guards who quit talk to journalists. Human rights lawyers file reports. Documentaries like the National Geographic film show the world what happens inside. And every time, the debate starts again. Is this justice or revenge? Is this punishment or torture? Is this acceptable or monstrous? There's no easy answer. Maybe there's no answer at all. What we do know is this. Black Dolphin exists. Right now, as you watch this, 700 men are standing in their cells. The lights are burning. The guards are making their rounds every 15 minutes. The soup is being prepared for the next meal. The concrete cages await the next exercise period. The machine keeps running, day after day, year after year, until each prisoner's heart stops beating. And when one dies, another takes his place. Because unfortunately, the world keeps producing monsters. People who do things so evil that regular prisons can't hold them. People who need to be erased from society completely. That's what Black Dolphin does. It erases them, not by killing them quickly, but by making them wish they were dead. By taking everything that makes life worth living and removing it. Slowly, permanently, forever. Some call it hell on earth. Others call it justice. The truth probably lies somewhere in between. But one thing is certain. If you ever find yourself approaching those 3 steel doors, if you ever feel a blindfold being tied around your eyes, if you ever hear that first door slam shut behind you with the sound of thunder, you need to understand something very clearly. You're not going to a prison. You're going to a tomb. A tomb where you'll be buried alive, where you'll stand and wait and suffer until death finally comes to rescue you. And unlike other prisons where there's hope, where there's possibility, where there's a chance of redemption or release, Black Dolphin offers none of those things. It offers only time. Endless, crushing, meaningless time. Until there's no time left. The prisoners know this. The guards know this. The government knows this. And now, you know this too. 700 men in concrete boxes. 700 hearts still beating, 700 minds slowly crumbling, all in one building in a forgotten corner of Russia, all waiting for the same inevitable end. That's the reality of the place where prisoners go and never come back. So what do you think? Is Black Dolphin justified? Is this the right way to handle the worst criminals? Or has humanity created something just as monstrous as the monsters it contains? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this documentary opened your eyes to something you never knew existed, hit that subscribe button because there are more dark corners of the world waiting to be explored. Stories that need to be told, truths that need to be shared, and I'll be here to bring them to you. Thanks for watching, and remember, the world is stranger and darker than most people realize. Stay curious, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.